Everyone, CPO here, and yesterday I put in a new downpipe in the Golf R. This guy right here, 2019 Golf R. If you haven't been paying attention, hold on, I'll show you. There she blows right there. That is a 4-inch Track Slag, and yeah, that went in yesterday. I'm not gonna lie, it was a ridiculous pain in the butt. Like, I paid the Golf R tax big time yesterday. The reason is, back right about there, underneath is a drive shaft that goes back to the rear of the vehicle. That has to be moved. And in order to move that out of the way so you can get the downpipe out and the new downpipe in, you have to disconnect the dog bone and sort of push the motor forward. But I did this fancy thing not very long ago called updated motor and, well, you can't see the transmission mounts, but updated motor and transmission mounts, which made that process of moving the motor much more difficult than it would have been otherwise. So here's what I pulled out. This is a Milltek Sport. There's the model number. Great downpipe, no complaints at all about it. I just wanted more flow. I'm getting ready to upgrade. I'm doing turbo stuff soon, and I wanted a higher flowing downpipe, and so I went with the Track Slag just to take care of that. So this is going to go up for sale. This is a all-wheel drive MQB platform turbo 3-inch Milltek. So it's got the high flow HJS catalytic converter, 200 cell. It's got the flex tube. It has the dual mounting points, which I'll talk about here in a second. And then it is designed to mate to a factory exhaust, because when I did this originally I had a factory exhaust. So it goes from a 3-inch to a 2.5-inch, and then later on I use this to adapt my my exhaust, which is a AWE track exhaust, 3-inch down to 2.5-inch, and use the band clamp to connect those. You can see where the band clamp marks are. So this is on here as a tip, which I'll talk about later. So what I figured I'd do is go ahead and pull the car in, put it back on the lift, and I'll sort of show you the process. By the way, these were a game changer right here. The quick jack, oh man, made that job so much easier. In the end, I only had this one little nut that was left over. I couldn't figure out where it goes. I'm just kidding, I know exactly where it goes. And actually, it goes back to this. The Milltek has the same mount spots as the factory downpipe. There's 2 of them. The Track Slag only has 1. It's got, which direction is which? It's got this one here. This one doesn't exist on the on a lot of aftermarket downpipes. So because of that, I have a bolt with no nut on it. So that's hanging out there just in case in the future I decide to do that again. Here's another tip for you. This guy came in super handy. This is just a standard universal swivel. Yeah, that and a couple of long extensions really came in handy. Lots of reach on that. But the tip is tape some black tape and tape around your swivel, and then it will make it less swivelly. Otherwise, you end up with one that's sort of like always you're trying to push it into places, and it's always, you know, like it's like it's got erectile dysfunction or something. So the solution to that is to put a little tape on it. It stiffens it up. It's still plenty flexible for what you need to do, but it keeps it from going wonky on you when you're trying to stick it all the way back inside of some orifice. Yeah, we should change the subject. You are going to need one of these if you don't have one. This is a 10 millimeter, but it's the 12-point socket, as opposed most sockets end up being 6-point, which look like that. But for the drive shaft, you need a 12 point. So I actually had to find one of those because I didn't normally have one. So that and this guy here, which is a 10 millimeter triple square, something else a lot of people probably don't have all the time. So that was needed as well. But yeah. Oh, this came in handy. Ratcheting wrench. Yeah, this was for getting back into some of those retaining bolts for the downpipe itself. Oh, another tip, you're gonna need an O2 sensor socket to remove the oxygen sensor off of whatever downpipe you have in there and then transfer that O2 sensor to the new downpipe. Don't buy one of these. You can rent them for free from AutoZone, pay full price for it, and then you use it and then you take it back and they give you all your money back. So it's free rental. You just basically have to prepay in case you ghost them and never show up again. But yeah, don't go buy one of these, just borrow it. All right. So while I'm doing tips before I bring this thing in, here's a tip for you. I still have this connected here. One of the challenges was getting the old exhaust separated from the downpipe so that I could take the downpipe out. And then I had to get rid of this adapter, which was shoved way tight into my factory exhaust or my aftermarket exhaust. So it came over like this, sleeved, and then there was a clamp here so that it was sticking out from a 3 to 2.5. The only way to get that out while it's still attached to the car was to beat it out. So what I did is I clamped these vice grips on there really tight. I think you can see some marks there where I moved it a couple times. And then I would take a screwdriver. Let's prop it up here. Then I would take a screwdriver and then put the edge of the screwdriver against the vice grip and then hammer it out. And that's how I got this thing hammered out. So I just moved this around a couple times and used it as a platform. And I was basically hammering on the vice grip, but it was pulling out this little adapter. So there's a fun tip for you if you've ever wondered how to get one of these out when it's way stuck in there. So anyway, let me get this up on the lift and I'll take you for a tour underneath. All right, yeah. Being able to get on a lift is a game changer. So there's the Track Slag up in its spot. The big problem, like I said, was way up in there. So the drive shaft here has to move that way. And in order to do that, you have to disconnect the bolts. By the way, I'm not making a how-to video on this because I'm one of those guys, and I've said this before, I don't necessarily feel the need to make a new video if there's already some really good content out there. So between Humble Mechanic and ShopDAP, they both have really good videos. The ShopDAP is good. It's a GTI video. Humble Mechanic does a Golf R, which has a lot of the parts that you need about the drive shaft. So I didn't feel like a need to recreate that. So this is more of just a couple of random things to show you what I did. But yeah, so way up in there's the drive shaft. You got to move that, and what you're doing is you're prying the engine forward. You have to remove the dog bone. These are supposed to be replaced once you take them out. Oh, that's warm. So you disconnect the dog bone, and then what you're doing is you're prying the engine forward, which frees up, and you probably can't see it up in there, but right up in here, see that black circle thing? That's where the drive shaft is. So this whole thing is going to be disconnected, and then it's going to push off, and it's going to pull away from a pilot bearing and then push to the driver's side. And so you've got your pilot bearing sticking out there, and then you've got this like circular thing that you're trying to clear it and move it out of the way, but you've got to like really pull it out of the way. Trying to pry this engine forward, and it's not going because I upgraded the motor mounts. And what I found is the trick, and it took me a couple stages, like I'd pry a little bit and shove a 2x4 up in here, and that would hold it open, and then I could get another grip at it and get it pushed even further. But the key was to pry to where you're sort of prying the engine down. And most of my prying happened like right in this area here. But instead of trying to think of it as prying forward, try and think of it as prying down. And basically what you're doing is you're rotating it, and by rotating it, it's moving forward. And then so you're doing that at the same time you're pulling on the back of the drive shaft, and I go up underneath here from the backside and get my hand on the drive shaft, and you can pull it backwards towards the rear of the vehicle and probably get another ½ inch or so of clearance. It's got that much room in it, maybe even more. So it's two-part. It's pry bar, prying on the engine, pushing it down and forward, and then pulling on the drive shaft and getting enough separation that you can clear that pilot bearing. That was a pain in the butt though. Like I had all kinds of issues with that because I just couldn't get enough clearance to get past that pilot bearing, and there's no way the downpipe is coming out unless you can get that drive shaft out of the way. So people have talked about basically removing the subframe to get this job done. I wasn't interested in doing that. People have talked about removing the motor mounts, undoing the motor mounts. I didn't really want to do that because those are also one-time use bolts, and I didn't want to have to try and figure out how to replace that hardware. So this is only a problem if you've upgraded your motor and transmission mounts because you've made them stiffer and given them less room for movement. On the factory mounts, you've got plenty of room to move that motor around. On upgraded mounts, particularly if you're stage 2, I'm stage 1 essentially, which is the street sports from 034. But if I was on track sports or like a BFI stage 2, I don't even know if I'd have been able to get done what I got done. So the alternative is to disconnect the back of the drive shaft and just take the whole drive shaft basically out. And that's probably what I would have done. That would have been my plan B. But eventually I was able to get it worked out. So it is possible. But yeah, it was pry, shove the 2x4 up right in here to get that sort of held in place. And then I was able to get another pry point to push it a little bit further. Just be careful because you're prying and the pry bar slips, the whole thing's going to come back together. And it never happened to me, but I was looking at it. There's a lot of ways that you can like accidentally pinch your fingers in there if you're trying to move that drive shaft around and if you wrap your fingers around anything. So just be careful with that. So here's the Track Slag mid pipe, and then it's split. So here's the downpipe, and then this is the first joint here, and then all the way down here's the second joint, which goes into the adapter. This is a 3-to-3 adapter basically. They also have an adapter if you're going to a factory 2.5 inch, basically kind of like what I did before. And then this is my aftermarket exhaust, the AWE track exhaust, which is a 3. So basically it's 3 all the way around. The only thing I really had an issue with building this whole thing down here without taking out the exhaust. The hardest part was getting all of these interlocking pieces together because they overlap inside, by a couple of inches, 1.5 inches or so, all these connections. So what I ended up doing is completely disconnecting the downpipe, both at the upper part, the V-band, the connection that goes over by the firewall, which is right up in here, and then these two, and then basically pushing the downpipe further inside the engine compartment so I could get all of these connections joined. Once I did that, I pulled it back into place, bolted everything back up. So I was really close to hitting heat shields, and I got it worked out in a way that, you know, obviously it clears. But one thing I did is, you know, up here, right here is especially where the drive shaft brace is especially close. But I was just kind of knocking and banging and seeing if I could hit a rattle. Because if I'm gonna hit, you know, if I hit the heat shield just banging it like that, then it's probably gonna do it while I'm driving, right? So I made sure that I didn't have anything like that. One thing I did do, which turned out to be a trick that I used, was up here, this exhaust hanger. This is the one right underneath this bracket, this brace here, right in front of the gas tank. This is the gas tank. So right here, there's an exhaust hanger. It's the first exhaust hanger you come to. What I did is I used 3 washers between the hanger and the frame to space it down just a few millimeters, which gave me a little bit more room up here. I was just dangerously close to this, and I wanted to give myself enough room. See, if I hit it hard, that's hitting the heat shield. Normal vibration, it doesn't do it, and I haven't nosed it on the street at all. So I did do that. There's that pesky drive shaft, damn you drive shaft. Yeah, Golf R's, pain in the butt, especially if you've upgraded your motor mounts. But anyway, yeah, that's it. That was what I did last night. So I did do some testing. I took this out to the track, got a few runs with the Milltek downpipe in. And then swapped it out. And my plan is, next chance I get to go to the track, I'll do some runs with the Trackslag downpipe and some logs, see if there's a difference that's noticeable. I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Anyway, guys, that's it. Just wanted to share this with you. Thanks for watching. I will catch you on the next one.